your friends. Or at least those fake toxic who you know you only hang out with because you're too scared to leave them. So I promise that by the end of this video, you will learn why you are friends with people that treat you like and how to walk away from those fake ass friends. When I was a kid, I had these two best friends. Let's call them Greg and Jackson. Greg and Jackson and I made up our school's 3 fat Asian kids. Like seriously, it was like the fucking Three Stooges. Jackson was a midget and he was obese. I was the medium height obese one, and Greg was the tall obese one. It was like the fucking Three Stooges, man. That's so funny. These were the two guys who showed me porn for the first time when I was 8 years old. And little did I know at that time, these were the two only friends I had growing up. Little did I know these were also gonna be two of the biggest bullies that I had growing up. So every year in our school, there was this new trend. One year was Pokemon cards, the other year was Yu-Gi-Oh cards, or it was Legos. One year it was even collecting playing cards. In grade 5, it was Beyblades. These little metal spinning tops. You better put some fucking B-roll on this, whoever's editing this video, okay? These Beyblades are fucking sick, okay? It was these little spinning tops that came from a TV show. They all had names and superpowers and abilities. When you go to the local toy store to buy one, it was $10 to $15. You get the little spinner and you get the Beyblade. And this was the trend. People would bring in these Beyblade stadiums and we'd all bring out our Beyblades and we'd battle. And we'd all watch the show at home and we'd collect them and we'd talk about the show at school. And this was almost every single kid at school. Even from the nerd kids to the jocks to the guys who were the losers. Even the cool kids, everybody played with Beyblades. Greg wanted the best Beyblade. And the best Beyblades are the ones that get imported over from Japan. Because those are the highest quality ones. They're straight from, they're exact replicas of the show because Japan has the licensing to get the exact one. And one time Greg came up to me. He's like, I heard the store buyer's house is the only store in the whole city that's selling the real ones from Japan. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, they're sick. I'm like, I was probably gonna go get one today. He's like, okay, get me one. I was like, of course. I think they're $20. And he said, no, get me one. And I froze. I was like, what do you mean? You're gonna give me the money back after? He said, no, you're gonna pay for it. You're gonna get it for me. And I expect it in my hand tomorrow. We were 9 years old. And this is almost exactly word what he said. I'll never forget it. And for most people, when you hear something like that, you stand up for yourself and you say, fuck no. I'm not $20 when you're that young. That's $1,000. But for some reason, I went home, told my mom that I really want this Beyblade. She drove me to the store. I got it using her money. I thanked her for hours after. And the next day I went to school and I gave it to Greg. And he took the Beyblade and looks at it and he goes, good. Now get me another. I was like, I already got you this one. What do you want? He's like, get me another or we're not friends. And at the moment I was like, why would I even want to be friends with you? You're threatening me. I don't want to be the friends with a guy who only wants me to get him stuff. But for some reason, that night, I went home. I begged my mom for another one. I said I lost it at school. I got him another one. And over the next half year until the trend died, almost every second week, I'd lie to my mom. My mom was just so nice at the time. She spoiled me so much that I'd keep buying these Beyblades and I'd give them to him. And it got to a point where my mom was like, look, Damien, I bought you fucking 10 of these Beyblades, almost $200. Where do you even play with them? And the look on her face, she was so sad that she would spend her hard-earned money on me and I wouldn't even play with the toys that she got me. I just remember I broke down in front of her. I was like, Mom, I gave them all to Greg. And she said, why would you do that? They're not his, they're yours. I was like, well, never mind, I'll get them back. And that was the last time I told my mom about this. And so I think, why was I still friends with him? And this is actually a very common occurrence, not only in friendships, but in relationships. The term trauma bonding. You've definitely heard this about if you're getting into a relationship with a toxic person and you guys both have some bad childhood trauma that you come together and the relationship shouldn't make sense because you guys are both very toxic to each other, but for some reason you guys stay together and you can't leave, and that's a trauma bond because the childhood trauma that you've experienced both psychologically has linked you guys together, but it also is keeping you together in an unhealthy place. This also applies to friends, to people, to your relationships with anybody in the world. I went through some shit as a kid where I had a parent with horrible mental health that would give me so much love when they could, but for 6 months out of the year, wouldn't give it to me. So by Greg telling me that he didn't want to be my friend, it would remind me of that deep childhood pain that a loved one was going to leave me and that I felt the need to win their approval in any way I could to keep them happy because that's what I had to do with my parents. And with Jackson, I remember this kid, I physically saw him getting abused. His older brother would beat him every single day. And this guy was like 10 years older. And I remember his parents were so strict on him for grades. He'd be crying every single time I went over to his house because he was just getting beat. I let this kid like physically abuse me. I mean, there's some days he would just like hit me and like we'd wrestle and I ask him to stop and he'd just be like kneeing me over and over and he'd get his anger out on me. And I could just see the pain in his eyes. For some reason, I couldn't tell him to stop. He came from a very rich family. I remember the first time I went to his house, I was staring at this. Like, the first time I ever saw a mansion, the 30-foot tall ceilings, and I was so excited. I couldn't even hold the excitement. I remember I went upstairs to one of his 14 rooms, and I like was crying at this excitement of seeing something like this. That was also one of the worst days of my life because he just got his new airsoft guns, like these pellet guns. And I remember I think he gave me like a dinner plate or something as a shield, and he held his new airsoft gun, and like these things gotta hurt, man. It's not like paintball, but this shit, like each shot kind of feels like a bee sting, you know? Sidetrack. I'm fucking sick at airsoft. I used to be quite the god at it. 12-year-old me would rip it up. Would rip that shit up on the weekends. Anyways, yeah, got his new gun. He puts in a loaded 300-round mag and tells me to run. And I'm like, what? And he just fucking starts shooting my feet and running. And I remember for like 2 hours, this guy chased me around his like fucking acre log property, just shooting me. No eye protection, just like, I was like crying and it was hitting me. And for some reason, I was terrified to go to his house. Every single time I was scared that I was gonna get bullied, but I still went back. I still went back to Greg and to Jackson every single time. And that's because if something happened to you as like a very young child, even if you weren't physically hit, I was never physically hit, but there was some sort of emotional need that wasn't met by your caretaker, usually in your future life, you become like I do. You become like that people pleaser who's not able to say no, to have boundaries, who even though they know the person that they're with is toxic, is bad for them, they stay with them because in your deep subconscious, you think of them as like a family member. And even if your family's going through something, no matter how toxic they get, you want to stick with them. So if something like this is happening to you, maybe not to the same extent, but you're still in some sort of relations with somebody who you know isn't good for you, but you can't leave. Here's how I did it. With Greg and Jackson, I simply just found better friends. Like in a relationship with a girl, there are billions of people out there in the world that will fit you. Some will fit you better, some will fit you worse. And of course, if you're with somebody, you shouldn't go cheat on them just because there's like a couple aspects that's not going perfect in the relationship. But at the same time, if everything's going to shit, it's not only your right, but you should go find someone who fits you better. And I remember now, to this day, one of my best friends came into class on the first day of grade 6, and we looked at each other, and I remember just saying like the stupidest thing to him, and just since that day, like we became friends. This is my best friend Marcus, and I remember in the beginning, I bullied him. I'd call him fat, I'd call him sausage. His nickname was fucking sausage, man. I'd call him that because I think I went through so much pain with these kids that I wanted someone else to feel it. But he was just a better fit. And I think Greg and Jackson slowly saw that I was becoming more friends with Marcus, that they tried to keep me in their friend group, but I didn't because I was just happier with this other person. So obviously that's easier said than done. If there is somebody else that you're like more friends with, I would highly recommend you like spend more time with the people that treat you right. And here's what you could do better than me. The best thing you could do is man the fuck up and have the conversation with this like toxic fake friend. Truly think about it first within your head. Like, is it even worth having this conversation? Is this friendship savable? Is it just a couple toxic traits that aren't very good? Like this is a best friend that maybe they shit on you a little bit too much and you don't like it. And in that case, sit down, have a conversation, and you should maturely let them know, like, these are your boundaries. These make you feel like this. The best way to do it is acknowledge some of the things first. Like, one of the best ways to have tough conversations with people and get them to see your point, this is taken straight from How to Win Friends and Influence Others, is the principle of giving appreciation before you give criticism. So give some appreciation to that person, like we've been great friends for a long time. I really value you in my life. I acknowledge that myself, maybe I haven't treated you right in these aspects, but I think tell them about the situation, tell them that these are the needs that you need to meet, and you have to be willing to walk away from the situation. So make it up in your mind first, like that's the first step, to be willing to walk away and then go into the conversation, just like a relationship. But if they are like unsavable in your mind, like you do not want this friendship anymore, which is your complete right, the best thing you can do is don't blame, give your peace, and leave. This is what I did with my ex-girlfriend, and I remember being regretful for it for like so many months after, like Jesus Christ, like maybe I should have stayed, maybe I should have chased her more, maybe I should have said it in a more like aggressive way. Jeez, was I too much of a pussy because I sent her this whole paragraph of, look, I loved our time together. I think we had the best first date ever. You're an amazing girl. I really hope you find somebody that fits you, but I just felt very disrespected because you ghosted me for so long, and I think you're cheating on me, but that's okay, and I hope you just have a great rest of your life. And I was genuinely embarrassed that I said that for so long, but now I've come into realizing that that is probably the most fucking giga Chad way of doing it. I said my piece, I didn't blame, and I left. And that's one of the hardest things you have to do, but if you're gonna take anything, you have to do it in a way. If you don't know exactly how to do it, and like if you want, you could literally like journal it out, like write it out a couple times, but you don't wanna create a script for it because you wanna come in very authentically. The best way you can do it is just, before you go into the conversation, think to yourself, how do I wanna act that my future self will be proud of? So if I yell at this person and tell them they're a piece of shit, they're a bad person, would I be proud of that? Probably not. Now, if I told them that I felt disrespected when they did this to me and I just wanted to voice that and I just want to let them know that I don't want this friendship anymore, but I wish them well, I'll probably be proud. That's the best way to gauge in how you should interact with people. We all know the quote that you're the product of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So choose those people wisely. Because this could either make the best, most successful future for you, or this could break that. And just know that not only do you have the power to walk away from situations that don't serve you, but you should. There's a point of what you should make work, but if you're being disrespected over and over, and these people that you think are friends aren't willing to work with you on this problem like a relationship, then these people don't deserve your kindness and your friendship, and they can fuck right off. Thank you boys for watching. I love you so much. Please fuck right off to the comment section and comment something. It helps the video. Tell me about a situation that you've had with some toxic friends so the kid watching who feels alone, who feels like they're going through it by themselves can relate to somebody else. And maybe you can help save somebody today. Fucking love you boys. And fuck those fake friends. Peace.